Well, there we are.
Sailors could learn.
The side of Reito we did not know existed. We always suspected.
He did seem suspiciously familiar with British barristers.
That's absolutely true.
Which brings me to your hat.
Yes. Well, there was some concern that I was showing favoritism toward birds last week, so I've decided to go back to the mammalian species, and so we now have cow. Which is
that what that is? Okay.
It is actually a cow, yes. So
I was wondering.
Yes. So it was pointed out to me that I really needed to have an egalitarian approach to my headwear.
I totally agree.
All right.
Absolutely. So today we are drinking something kind of special. This is Saw Tea. I have no idea how to pronounce it. So this is the latest craziness from Dogfish Head. Ale brewed with black chai tea and juniper berries. This is either going to be really good or really bad.
We have not yet tried it, so cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
And happy Friday. I say thumbs up. That is
the stuff.
That is excellent.
All right.
Well chosen as always.
Indeed. Much better than what I had last night.
Yeah, and not only that, it's got a nice yeasty flavor as well. It
really does. Yeah, it's like a pumpernickel bread.
Yeah, it is. It's sort of this would make a hearty breakfast actually.
Funny you should say that. Right on. Okay, let's get right to the games. Now today we have 6 games actually on the list, and I'll tell you why. Because the developer of Xbugs nominated Xbugs to be featured, and it got a ton of votes on the apps list.
Yeah.
So
there really are 2 lists, and be careful when you're nominating, because normally you wouldn't do this, but I had a chance to play Xbugs, and it was honestly really fun in a kind of visceral bug squashing way. So I thought it would be worth bringing onto the show, despite the fact that it was nominated on the unfortunately incorrect list.
Exactly. Well, we really need to do some work to make the process a little easier. For those of you who don't know, here's how this works. What you see every Friday on our show is a list of games that were selected from our Google moderator page. There's a moderator called the Friday Review on, I guess it's moderator.google.com. We link to it several times a week in our Google Plus stream. And there are 2 categories. When you go over on the left-hand side, you see the Friday Review apps and the Friday Review games. And if you suggest something in one of those categories, and people vote on it, and it ends up in the top, about 5 or so, then we're going to take a look at it on Friday. Now, we also have a set of other categories that have dates on them, and those are the ones, those are what represent the things that we're actually reviewing on that day. So I realize it's a little confusing, but that's how it goes. We'll make it better at some point. But right now, if you want to see your app or game reviewed on the Friday Review, just go to that moderator page and nominate it in the correct column. And I will try to not delete you next time if you get it wrong and accidentally go into apps. I was down about half a bottle of red and white yesterday, and I saw that, and I said, oh, this is inappropriate. I marked it inappropriate, and I think that actually removed it accidentally. So sorry for that.
Yeah, I mean, it technically was inappropriate, but that wasn't the action we really wanted to take. So
no, I was being far too literal, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go ahead and take a look at
inappropriate. Yes.
The oh, nice, Reito. Don't switch until I've got it unlocked. That's what the preview window is for.
Okay, now we can.
Sweet. That's okay. Reito can get back at me in many ways because I completely screwed up his engineering on the last one. It was actually kind of funny. So why don't we start with
comedy, yeah.
with Heronvale? Is that how you say that? Heronvale.
Heronvale. So Heronvale is a game that was obviously one of the nominated ones on our Friday review, and it falls into, we need to rotate the display on this one.
Yeah. So, So first off, not really tablet friendly because the display forces itself into portrait. I'm going to make the argument that this is unnecessary. I don't think that the display has to be portrait. I think that this is a port from a web game that probably did not run in portrait in a browser.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's actually a game that's been built using the Marmalade SDK, and I'm actually used to seeing really high-end games that are built with Marmalade. So this is an interesting thing. It's actually a game that's akin to Mafia Wars and a lot of those kinds of games. It's a bit more complicated than Mafia Wars in terms of the game mechanics itself. It's very, very deep. From my perspective, the biggest issues I have is that it just doesn't feel at all like an Android native experience.
Sure.
And I think that's the biggest thing, which is just looking at this screen. And if we could go back to the game screen itself, you can see that we actually have things which basically are tabs on the bottom of the screen.
Right.
And on Android, because we have other things on the bottom of the screen, such as buttons, in this case on the tablet, or as even capacitive buttons on the bottom, a design decision to put a lot of button type things or tabs on the bottom actually makes the interface look kind of unnecessarily busy.
Sure.
And so it's always been a design decision from Android to take those, place those on top. And so when they're on the bottom like this, it really does make it look like it came from another platform, which actually prefers those at the bottom. The other thing is you'll notice that the resolution of the artwork is kind of random on this screen. You'll see actually that as you go through the game, there are because we're really looking at everything through a magnifying glass, quite literally on this device. You'll actually see that the graphics actually have different levels of artifacts from anti-aliasing. And so you'll see it really puts the whole thing under a pretty significant microscope. But in any case, we can actually go to playing the game itself, and we can attack. And it is what it is. I think there's a whole group of people who actually adore these kinds of games. The music is actually pretty epic within the game. I wish we could actually let you guys hear that, but we can't do that for copyright reasons, and the UT people get mad at us. But there we go. But you can imagine the epic music that might back this sort of text-based game. I guess
I'm imagining the theme from the Black Knight scene in Monty Python's Holy Grail.
That's good. So yes, exactly. That's actually a fantastic one to think of. You can hum that to yourself while we look at the rest of the game. As far as the game itself, as you can see, the game has the sort of immediate exit on back, which is actually fine because it really all exists in one activity and they're all tabs. But
then you've got to come back and wait while.
Yeah, it's not necessarily desirable. I mean, I think is when you click fairly far in here, you're on quests and you're looking at a hero emerges. You really do feel like you're pretty far immersed in the game. To have it just kick you right out, it actually does feel like there should be some level of stacking going on.
Yeah, I have to admit, I agree with you in principle, but not in practice on this. There's two problems that I see. First. Even though the game is a single activity, to the user it doesn't feel like that.
Yes.
I feel when I go to the world map, I've just hit a new activity.
Absolutely.
And I would expect the back button now to take me back to the home screen.
Absolutely, and there's even a big button called Back to Home. So it really should form the same. One, this Back to Home button is just not really needed. It should be obvious to the the navigation of the game, and then two, yes. So that's where I was going for. It's like you could argue that when you're at the main screen.
Oh yeah, when you're at the main screen, absolutely.
But when you're
actually
as soon as you get in here, and these are tabs, and now where am I? Well, there is an argument as to whether or not that pushing the back key should take me back to the previous tab or not, because they are behaving like tabs.
Right.
So arguably from here you could say it should take you out. It could kick you out of the game. That would be an acceptable thing because you're now switched from one tab and one backstack level to the other. So the only other thing I noted on this, and it's hard to tell. Again, when I went to go and buy Platinum and I hit buy, I ran into this Marmalade error in GL swap buffers. So this probably has to do with a lack of testing, perhaps on ice cream sandwich builds. It's that's possible. I'm not sure about Marmalade version 5.2.1, and what kind of errors that occurs there. But now the game is kind of in a really bad state, and my only hope to actually do anything is nothing. I can't back out of the game anymore. It's hung for me. I can go to the home screen and I can go and kill it off. So that was the only thing I noticed. I always like to go through purchasing flows and see how they look. So I think there's a lot of work that can be done on this title. It's certainly not in a genre that's particularly exciting because it's so crowded with so many of these games that have been out for so long. So, in order to stand out, what I would want to see is a really great tablet layout. Like, I would love to see this game actually go through and say, what does it look like envisioned on a tablet? With that, you wouldn't need higher resolution graphics because you could actually reuse the same art on half the screen. It would look much better. And you could figure out, how am I going to display? There's so much information in the game. When I look at this game, on a tablet especially, what I really want to see is there's lots of social aspects of the game. And I'll show you. Like, there's you can actually go battle, and this battling could actually be like a separate panel, within the game versus home requests. And you could actually structure the user interface so that you didn't have to have quite so many buttons on the screen all the time, but you could actually have kind of more real actions available. Like, so I wouldn't have to go to quests and then always click in here. Like, I could have more stuff available on the screen in different lists. So I'd love to see that. I think that the problem with this particular genre is that just by making a web game, bringing it, which is great, this game is available, I believe it's a Flash game available online, and that's great, but I think what we want to see is a really, really rich mobile experience, and right now it just feels like the game has been kind of brutally brought over to the
You're right. It feels like a bunch of great pieces that were sort of like stuck in a food chopper and reassembled Chicken McNugget style onto our UI. And
I like that. It's like Mafia McNuggets, exactly, or War McNuggets.
So the art is beautiful, and like you said, parts of the gameplay are deep, and this is a really, it's a cool genre if you're into it. So I would love to see this developer just take a little more time to think about the interface on Android, on Android devices. This is a great handset game. It's the sort of thing that I can see playing while you're waiting for the bus and be a lot of fun. Yeah, but not in its current incarnation.
You can be like sitting next to the guy and you'd be like, "Hey, dude, I just leveled up." Awesome.
Bingo.
All right, so the next game that I wanted to look at on our list in order here is Pool, and this was kind of interesting because it was actually had a different name when it was nominated to the moderator, which confused me. But it is from Friendly Monster, and they've done a beautiful job making a 3D pool title. And I wanted to show a couple of things about this game. First of all, this menu here is really lovely, and you don't really see how lovely it is because it's very minimalist. A couple things that you can see on the screen. One is that we're actually in blackout mode, so you can see that the keys on the bottom have gone away, and allowing you to really focus on the game content, which is great.
That's beautiful. In fact, you got the sliding thing.
Not here yet. We're in.
But the one thing actually that I have a problem with is this menu, or the one thing that I would change, is the font.
Yes, absolutely. From a design perspective, it just feels very plain.
It feels plain, and it feels like, what is that, Arial or is it Roboto? I'm not sure because I'm not a font geek, but it feels like the font that you got with the system, and it doesn't feel like the game is giving any thought. Yeah. Also, just the sizing of it feels a little off to me.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Like it's kind of a distinctive style, but it is definitely something I would consider. I like the way the style has been sort of carried throughout here. Like, again, the design it's really, really nice. Like, it's a very distinct design. It's, again, a very minimalist design, which I like. So I think on that there's definitely some issues. Just wanted to kind of show how the navigation worked. That's the exit. Go back. So this game does actually have music on the lock screen. As you know, that's one of the things we always look at. So I wish I could actually demonstrate that for you guys, but you just have to trust me on that one. And
now we've got this kind of swipey menu. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's nice where the ones that are not selected fade out. Like, I think that's really cool.
Oh, and you've got this where if you go to a locked thing.
Yeah, this is
That is very cool.
Yeah, the way, and you can see it's actually a nice transition effect. They're actually following the menu item, and actually as they fade the menu item out, they're actually fading the balls white, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah.
As I said, this is not as flashy as a lot of games in terms of the fonts and the presentation, but I think it's so distinctive and unique. I have a hard time telling them make changes to it because it's kind of cool. And let's just go back. I actually want to walk people through. The other thing that's really great about this game is it actually has a complete tutorial, and the tutorial is actually pretty rich. So one of the things, it's a little bit confusing to see. You actually play the game with sort of a slingshot mode here by tapping, and then I can. Obviously, I didn't drag far enough. Tapping there, you can actually.
Let's see.
You don't actually have to tap on the ball. That's the somewhat confusing part. So if I want
Intended.
Yeah, that was beautiful. You're clearly much better at this than I am. So if I actually want to make a really hard shot, I can actually tap like here, and you can see that actually is going to do the shot.
Okay.
And as you can see, not bad. So that takes it's a little bit confusing, and it tries to explain that to you in the tutorial, but it definitely is one of those things where it's not a mechanic that I think I've seen exactly before. But I don't think I'm gonna be able to quite do this, but let's try. I don't really see how. Oh, lucky. So yes, I intended that. That's why I said lucky. You can actually, but so it was a little bit unintuitive, the controls, but once I got it, I got it.
So you just drag from anywhere, basically?
Yeah, I drag from anywhere.
That makes sense. Okay.
And then you can
so the length of this line has to. So I'll just do what I always do in pool, which is just hit it as hard as I possibly can.
Right. Yeah. We are.
See, that always works.
That was well done. All right. So, Pool Master, I now know not to challenge you in pool, especially when you've got a beer in your hand like that. All right. So let's try one more. I'm gonna try actually doing more of a finesse shot here. We'll see about how lucky.
I don't think we've really been able to figure out how good or bad the physics are. I mean, obviously there's some things that you'd like to be able to do in pool in terms of backspin and things like that you aren't necessarily getting here.
No, you see, you can actually.
Okay, so you can
change the elevation of your cue and where you're going to hit the ball in order to get your spin.
Okay.
So that it's actually it's a beautiful interface. Like as I said, I've never quite seen this approach taken to pull, and I like it. So
yeah, I can see myself playing this.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyways, I think our general thought is, really thumbs up. Beautiful job. I mean,
yeah, this is an awesome game. In fact, honestly, at this point, the only thing that I'm kind of disturbed about is the way that they've gone into light top mode, which is awesome. But then they put an extra back button there.
Yeah, well,
it's like, make up your mind, because it's almost as if you replicated the.
I would actually love to see this actually implemented. We've gotten so far. I would love to see it actually be implemented with an action bar pattern. Like I think it would be really, really nice to actually have just an action bar on top, have the action on top. The other thing is the back key doesn't quite do what I expect it to do. It does something, which is good, but as you can see, all it does is swap that title there to exit.
Right.
And now I can go back to exit. So that's which is not what that key does. Like I expect these to be approximately the same, and they're not.
Now while you're talking, I'm just going to switch us into the mode where you can actually see these things, our touches on the screen.
Oh yes.
Sometimes that screws up games, and I think that's why it wasn't in that. But I really want to show some things here. Where is that?
Here, it's
up the top.
Yeah. There we are. Show visual feedback for touches.
Beautiful. Okay, great.
So yeah, it's actually really nice. I kind of feel like they did this for us, just for the Friday reviews, so that we can demonstrate stuff and show where our touches are.
And I absolutely I want to call out that we now have HDMI that can actually show the entire screen.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
I have never been so excited about technology.
All right. So. The next game we wanted to go into was Blitz Jump Light.
Now, it looks like we actually do have someone on the Hangout with us. Who's that? That looks like from Rupert Stevenson from Word Hero. Oh, wonderful. Well, maybe we should just switch over to Word Hero. Now, you are a huge Word Hero fan.
I am. Word Hero is one of those games that it grabs you. It's got this great competitive nature side to it, and it was really exciting because we came on actually last week to start talking about Word Hero, and we said we really wanted to see a tablet view of it, and it was great to have a developer come and say, all right, I can do that, and just do one. And so if you download Word Hero today, you'll actually get a tablet optimized view, and you can actually turn it on and off. Now, I'm a little sad that with the tablet optimized view, we still have the zoom panel available. But I will point out is if you're gonna leave the zoom on, make it work, and this app actually works brilliantly. So if you zoom to full screen, you actually end up getting the original non-tablet view. Which is actually, and it doesn't crash like a lot of games will. So that's
Amazing.
that's really, really nice. So I would rather see it not there. There is a setting in the menu to go to settings and actually change that. So I'd rather see this still targeting at least SDK level 11. It does actually use the menu key though.
Right. So yeah, this is it is a. It's not a button of shame. It's a button of does what it's supposed to,
exactly.
And that's fine. And I may want to think about other ways to do it, but
yeah, I mean, I'd love to see this game actually, take advantage of the action bar pattern. I think that, especially since this is a game that really feels very, very native. Like I think it makes a lot of sense to use that pattern.
Absolutely.
And especially since there's some great software out there that's been written by the guys over at Action Bar Sherlock that make it really, really easy to implement that pattern across different platforms. But that being said, I think that if you're not going to implement this pattern, this is the way to do it. I mean, this is absolutely it runs in a really nice compatible way, as you can actually really see when we play one round here. And we should also
now while you're geeking out about that, so is Richard able to speak with us?
Sure.
Oh, awesome, Richard, there you are.
Yeah.
Yes. So Rachel, let's put Richard up on the split screen, even though he doesn't have a webcam, because that's sort of an awesome picture. I want to see what that picture is.
If you guys can actually tell me how to get a webcam working, it says it's broadcasting, but I guess it's not working. Or it doesn't like my Philips webcam.
Well, it may just be that Google Plus applied an awesome filter and decided that your profile picture was far more appropriate.
Yeah, that's me surfing.
Excellent. All right, Rachel, now let's get those titles up. Yeah.
Making me work as well.
But the interface is very straightforward here. So you just basically drag in order to create words. And
it's sort of a boggle, but not. I mean, we looked at a game like this a couple weeks ago, right? But this turns out to just be a much better implementation, I think.
Yeah, this absolutely. I mean, I think what's really great is that you're actually also competing. You can see with this tablet view, it's great. You can actually see the words that I found on one side. If we actually go back to the view, you can see the words that I found on one side, and you can actually see the game board on the other side. And then once the game ends, it ends. For almost everyone, you can see it. There's a countdown clock on the left-hand side. So it's actually a really, really nice tablet feel here. And you can see also the ad actually fits into a nice place as well.
Right.
So it's really, really well done. And
I can see that ad's got you pegged.
I think
Pretty
the
much.
assumption is if you play this game a lot, that you probably need a date.
Ouch!
Wow. I think that's what this that's what this targeting means, but I'm not sure.
So, Richard, what can you tell us about Word Hero?
Okay, so this game's been out since probably about August of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're currently on, I believe, iteration 28 of the game.
Nice.
Just on the Android side, obviously there's been server iterations as well. It's really been a continuous work in progress to add new features, improve the UI, just make it a really great game that's just a lot of fun to play. And there seems to be a continual sort of, if you look at the number of users, there's a fairly linear growth in it. There's definite pickup. We're just hoping for a lot more people, obviously, because with all multiplayer games, more people is more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's certainly a lot of really competitive players out there. I can say that even when I'm actually focusing on playing the game, there are people who always manage to find pretty impressive words. So you've definitely got some devoted hardcore fans out there. And but this game, I mean, as soon as I played it, I was like, it was really, really clear that this game was just lots and lots of fun, and that I could get hopelessly sucked into it for hours. So congratulations there. I think it's a game that really makes very good use of Android in terms of as a game view. The one thing I would say on the tablet, it may make sense to make some of the fonts a little bit larger. Because one of the things that's about tablets is that this tablet is an MDPI device,
Right.
and so you're getting MDPI sized fonts,
Right.
which is great because you get a lot of space on it. But when you're seeing the words they found, they are a little bit small.
Yeah, Rachel, can you switch to the full screen view? So I think that you'll be able to see on our glorious 720p display.
Yeah, you'll probably hopefully be able to
You
read
may
them.
actually be able to read those words, and if you can, our work here is done.
Yeah.
But
on a technical side,
Yeah, but-
we've
but
managed
Richard,
to,
yeah.
as we said earlier, we've managed to suck less every week, and I
Absolutely.
think this is really impressive.
I think the font size on, so if you look at the font size over here on the gameplay screen, you see there's letters and there's these little numbers in the corner. That the font that you're using for the numbers is about what I would want to see over on the right hand side.
on the words. Yeah, so it just means on the tablet you should, and when you detect a large screen like that, it makes sense to bump the font size a little bit, I think, on those as well. But just because, I mean, especially there's also just an enormous amount of white space here, and that's really the only other thing is that it'd be cool to figure out ways of making.
Well, there's a ton of white space because we suck at getting words, right?
Well, that's true.
If
The
we
more
were
words-
good at this game, it would actually start
if
bumping against the
I
ads
could get some words that were like 50 characters long, which actually the biggest word you can get is actually, I guess 24 characters, or sorry, 20 characters long. But wait, I'm brain dead. 16 characters long. But in any case, if I had really, really long words, then it would still obviously be like this. You can see that those words actually fit into this little column on the left-hand side. So that just means the font can be larger. The white space, white space can be a little larger. But also, people do want to see the number of words. It'd be very cool to actually be able to do something like actually zoom in and out, like actually, like, hey, I'd like to see the list a little larger or smaller, as if I'm trying to just go quickly and figure out which words.
Sure.
So it might be fun to have play with that.
But you gotta
honestly,
say that list kicked ass. That's so cool because
Yeah,
not only did
absolutely.
it show you what words the other people found, but
Yep.
it showed you the pattern.
Mhm.
It really gets that sort of competitive thing
Oh, yeah.
flowing, I think. So Richard, you brought out a tablet version of this quite quickly, I think. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I can totally blame Dan for that. He said he'd like to see a tablet version, and so I put about 30 hours in on the Saturday and the Sunday following that, and Sunday night there was a tablet version. Having said that, I'm pretty sure by Monday there's going to be a tablet version with variable font size.
Right. Now Richard's coming through very quiet because one of the things we need to solve is our echoing problem in here with the we need some of those earpieces, so I can
Yeah, exactly.
I'm being told that Richard is very quiet. Okay, so Richard just said he had some issues with the font sizes, but with Dan.
No, he
Yeah.
simply said that he was motivated last week by our comment about wanting to see a tablet version and wanting to see the font sizes larger. He was motivated to do that, which is great.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
honestly, you guys, you've a lot to be proud of. This game is awesome, and you've built a great community around it. And I'd love to see this game get featured. That's what I feel about
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, we love the game, Richard. I think we're gonna move on now because your game is awesome and we need to talk about games that suck more.
Yeah, I'm sorry, your game's just too good for us to spend too much time on.
So thanks for joining us, Richard.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's go. None of these games suck.
Yeah. So let's go to Blitz Jump.
Right. Now, Blitz Jump is, I do love the artwork. It's a little confusing at first. It seems to have some real issues up here in the corner. Do
I
you
think-
have any ideas on that, Dan?
I think that the issue is it's just not really happy at this aspect ratio. It actually is doing better now that we are displaying it in HDMI. Because
Really?
it actually helps the aspect ratio get a little closer.
Interesting. So if I were to go to crop mode, for instance,
Mhm.
on this, which we didn't do before because we wanted to show off buttons of shame.
Yes.
But now I go back to blitz mode. So now it's cropping off the system bar.
Mhm.
And that is
Worse.
Yeah, it's actually worse.
Yeah, that's why it's just I think there's just issues with aspect ratios and and how that shows up, how the ad shows up. But that was my initial take on that.
Okay.
But let's go back to the game itself.
All right.
So Blitz Jump is in the jumping family of games. The author describes it as being akin to things like Mega Jump. I think it's actually more akin to Doodle Jump as far as other games are concerned. And it plays pretty well. I'm not sure what
It's a little unconvincing. When he lands on something, he doesn't actually land there.
Yeah.
Hard to tell whether that's an issue with the game or if it's just that he's doing the math on the wrong aspect ratio, maybe.
I was trying to figure that out actually as
Yeah.
I was playing it. You can see he lands about 20
Yeah.
or 30 pixels above something, which also makes it a little annoying to play at times. Also, I was a little. We just pulled our HDMI cable
Yeah.
out here. So fortunately, Rayto can just switch back to the view and show us instead of the game. But with the game is back on, hopefully we'll get that display back so you can see a little bit more of the gameplay. And
Ooh, game over.
But Ian did just get our personal best.
Nice. True. So I guess my take on this game, I just don't want to spend much time on it. It's a great game for like a school project or a like a starter game. I'm really impressed. The hand-drawn stuff is cute. It's nice, but there's just a lot of polish that needs to be done before it's really ready to go, I think.
Yeah, I mean that was sort of my feeling was if you're going to take a game which is already in a very well established genre of games,
Yeah.
you've got to figure out what you're bringing that's really new and innovative and exciting to that genre.
Yep.
And this game is fun but I think that the competition's pretty extreme for this kind of game.
That's really the problem, isn't it? Is, we see some games where it's exactly like some other game,
Mhm.
and it's just, why would you play this game instead of one of the other games that's already been done?
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many really, really great games in the tilt to play genre. We just saw a few weeks ago Cordy Sky show up on Google Play, and you talk about taking it actually adds a whole bunch of really cool platforming elements to
Mhm.
it. And that's done by a spectacular development team.
Right.
So it's hard for me to go and say this is. Go and spend a whole bunch more work on this. My thought would be, if this is a good start. You've shown that you know how to put together games. Try to come up with some innovative twists on it. Go do something different. And
Right.
that would be my feeling, is that you've proven you can code the game, and now let's see what you can do. That you can bring either to this genre or to another one.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's move on. So I think the next thing we want to look at is Go Bandroid, right?
Yeah, and I am not. Are you a Go player?
It's funny. I am,
Mhm.
but I'm not an amazing Go player. I'm not a professional Go player. But my wife and I both have fathers who were nationally rated.
Mhm.
Well,
So you
no,
got-
my dad just thought he was nationally rated. Her dad was actually nationally rated in China.
I see. Well, in China too, that probably means something.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But, of course, my dad graduated from Caltech and became an electrical engineer and a huge nerd.
Mhm.
Obviously it didn't get passed down or anything.
Of course not.
And if you're a huge nerd, of course your game's going to be Go, right?
Of course.
Especially if you are part of the open software movement and you got Pocket Protector and all these things. They just kind of coming together in this perfect storm. And this is free software.
Yes.
But I do want to point out that unlike everything that I have been led to believe about Go players, the author of this game, who goes by Mr. Liggy, if you look at his Google Plus page, I don't even know what he looks like, except that he has massive dreads. The man has Cousin It dreads.
Well, in fact, that's the reason we don't know what he looks like. His
I
entire face is
am
covered
really
by
not
dreads.
sure if it is a picture of his back or his front on his Google Plus page.
Well, all we know is that it was taken in the land of Awesome, which is not where he's from. He's actually from Germany.
Well, he's in Germany,
He's
but
in
I
Germany.
assume he's a citizen of Awesomeville.
That's possible. Yeah,
Sure.
I'll accept that postulation. So, anyways, one of the things that's nice about GoBandroid is that GoBandroid actually uses it's actually a real Android UI, and
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, and it even looks pretty good on a tablet. So let's take a quick look at the UI. Now, this is a pattern we usually say don't use on a tablet. This is the dashboard pattern, and if you went to Google I/O 2 years ago, we were like, this is what all Android applications should look like,
And we were wrong.
And we were wrong.
We were wrong.
Because we didn't anticipate tablets, honestly, when we were designing those guidelines. We were thinking about phones, and when you came to tablets, all of a sudden you end up with often little tiny icons on an enormous screen. So.
But that's not a problem here. So this guy did it right,
because he has very large icons and it's very simple and straightforward, all of the presentation is here. It actually works pretty well. I mean, I would like to see this be a 2-panel display because it still feels like there's a lot of screen real estate that could be taken up with something that's a little bit more direct.
At the same time, it is completely self-explanatory.
Absolutely.
As long as you speak whatever language.
Well,
this is.
there's a page of links, and there's other stuff you could put into a second panel,
Yeah.
which I think would be nice. So
That's true.
that's one thought. But what's beautiful also is that this is using very straightforward Android ways to draw backgrounds, and it just makes the whole experience feel really connected. Like this very simple wood background, I thought, oh yes, I am in GoBandroid. While it still has a great Android look and feel, it looks like an ICS app, and you see it actually is at least a honeycomb app because we don't see the buttons of shame in the toolbar.
Yeah,
And we're also seeing the look and feel of ICS. So
taking
this is
a lot of time thinking about the user interface.
yeah, and this is not with a team of professional designers. This is what one person who really
One person
thought.
who probably uses Emacs, which is like God's plan to destroy user interface design.
I'm not going to comment on that.
But anyway.
you know, right? When you say that, just immediately we are going to get a bunch of dislikes on YouTube right there.
That is absolutely true.
So
that's how we'll know.
Exactly. There we are.
Okay, but so let's take a look at the game itself. Now, one of the really interesting things about this game is it didn't ship with AI, but if you download the GNU Go AI partner, you can install it and it will play with you. So which is
pretty darn
it's
cool.
so Unix, right? Like let's modularize the whole thing.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Is there you almost want a kind of robot API so you can design your own Go robots basically.
Yeah. Now I'm going to switch this to a 9x9 board just so it's a little easier to see. But
It also matches my Go abilities, so I think that actually works well.
look how beautiful these stones are. Now they are all the same. Like I could really go for a set of stones with a little bit of graphical variation in them.
It'd be fun, yeah.
But
They look beautiful.
that's a quibble. They really are gorgeous. They got the slate and the shell textures really beautifully. All of this stuff is just gorgeous.
Yeah. Now Reto is pointing out that a set of stones is something that we could use, but I actually think
Right.
just by wearing this hat, I have proven that I have something. I'm not sure what, but
We've got a pair of big brass androids. Don't mess with us.
that's right, brass droids.
In fact, what are you even doing in here, Reto? This room is for closers.
Oh man. Okay. So let's see. Where were we?
So the only thing about this is we've got a bunch of blank space over here on the right hand side, right? So you've got comments. So I guess that's so you can chat.
Yes,
with your opponent.
I believe it's a chat.
Of course, our opponent's an AI, so it might be interesting to see a little bit of difference.
I would actually love to see what the AI is doing. Like honestly, that's where the nerd side of me comes
You read
in.
my mind. I would love to see some visualizations
of the UI search. I mean, that's like. I mean, this is the Go is a pretty geeky game, but I'll tell you, that's where I would geek out. I would love to watch a visualization of the UI of the AI here.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you can see, though, you also as you actually are on the board, that is used space.
So that's actually going to work well for a smaller device. It's completely unnecessary on this size of a tablet, I think.
But it's a great tablet experience. Like, and this is it's using the action bar. Like, it just makes me happy to see all of this work being placed in this. I mean, I honestly would love to see this game get in front of more people. There's a lot of people out there who do love Go.
Well, now, so let's eviscerate the action bar just a little bit, just because it's such a great app. Let's talk about what might be wrong. So this is a standard action bar, but I think if Roman Nurek were here, he would say, bravo for putting your actions on the right-hand side. Not absolutely sure that you needed to have the captions next to the actions. I think actually those icons are very well done and somewhat self-explanatory. But over on the left-hand side now, that's supposed to be navigation. And instead you're using it for status. And we've got this icon here, which should be what we call an up button. Which is the biggest misnomer in Android history.
And it does actually take you up. Let's be very, very clear.
But then it first asks you if you want to quit, right?
Well, it's taking you up, and that would be it is trying to avoid the data loss scenario. So I would accept that, because if otherwise it just takes you back if you're not in game. So
okay, all right. I think I'll give you that. But here's what I think.
I'd rather have it.
First off, there ought to be a little arrow point. Oh, there is a little arrow.
Yeah. So before the game starts. Now, the real thing though is what the better thing to have done would be to actually let you go to the main menu and have it say, "Hey, there's a game in progress."
Bingo.
That's
exactly. Why should I lose progress just to go back and do whatever I was going to do? Maybe I wanted to look at the credits.
Yeah. Or there are preferences. Now, obviously, some of these may actually be things that. You may not be able to change during the middle of the game. So I understand that.
Right, but this feels like one of those things that was sort of done for the engineer's convenience. It's not the best flow for the player.
You can actually hear the stones if you turn the sound on. I actually hadn't noticed that.
Yeah.
So.
That's a big part. Actually, my dad made his own Go board, and he was telling me actually the real Go board. They are like 8 to 12 inches deep or something like that, and they actually have a hollowed out middle that's done to acoustically enhance the click of the stones on the board.
Wow! Now, can you actually? So it's going to make a different sound then, depending on where you put the stone down on the board. If it's
well, it might. That might be the case, or it may be that that's really the craft in it is to make
it similar. That's fascinating. In any case, there's a couple of little things we could quibble with, and that's definitely one of them. I actually don't mind the having the titles there if there is space. On this tablet version, there certainly is. I think it just makes it a little clearer. Overall, I think it's a really nice use of the action bar. I'm sure that Roman would have potential things about ordering. I would say though that and I don't think it's even a problem to put the status up in the action bar. I think that's actually reasonable use of that space. There is this kind of extra area here. I'd be curious to see what it looks like on a phone. I didn't try it.
Did we try rotating into portrait? Does that do anything?
That is well, we have HDMI in, so I suspect it may not
always kind of messes things up, right?
Yeah. Why don't we take HDMI out and let's just I actually did not try that, so.
No, it
doesn't look like it's going to do that for us. I was just curious. It's again, it switched into. I think it switched into landscape when I started. So, but I use tablets in landscape, to be honest, almost always when I'm using Android tablets. So,
that's true. Okay.
But nice job.
Yeah, I really I don't know how the author is going to feel about if we ask him to fix a few things, but I would love to nominate this for.
I mean, he's fixing new things every week. I mean, honestly, there's an update between last week and this week, and and if you look at his timetable, he keeps a blog of what he's doing. I believe the whole game's open source too. So which is great. So I mean, I think as an example, people I'd love to see this as a shining example of hey, here's something you guys can go to for implementation of Action Bar and how someone did a game board, and I think it's fantastic that he's doing that. So bravo. And we actually have one more game. We do have a sixth game, and I don't know if it might be in my list here. Maybe
Xbug.
Here we are.
But we invited the developer, but his name was Xbug, last name Xbug.
Was it really?
Yes. So way to evade the Google real name filters there, pal. All right, so Xbox throws this into portrait mode right away.
Yeah, and one thing you may not be able to notice, but the game is pretty pixelated on this device. To the point where it looks a little blurry. I would like to see a higher res graphic set, for these high res devices, because we are getting to the point where it's starting to push the envelope. It's starting to be noticeably blurry.
Yeah, it's tough. This is. I'm tempted to give it a pass, but no. And hopefully on your 720p screen, if you can see this, I realize now. As you can see, we've rotated it, so
Yes.
the YouTube screen is not going to be exactly what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
But just right over here, for instance, there's some very noticeable aliasing around the edges of these rounded corners.
Yeah, and mostly it's mostly to me, and to my eye, it's actually the text. The text, story, survival, child, exit. When I see text that is that anti-aliased and blurry, I find it actually to be kind of a little bit of eye straining to look at.
Yeah, exactly. It feels blurry.
Because my eyes are trying to focus on it, and they can't.
You want to wipe the Vaseline off the screen.
It's permanently unfocused. So that's when you get to that level, that's when you need to actually go up with a higher res tile set. Or to be honest, what you could do in this case is actually embed a font and use that for the text and place it. And I think if that was done, the graphics would still be a little blurry, but it would help. So I think there's several options on how to tackle that, but I think low res text is worse than low res art, kind of as a general.
Oh, that's absolutely true. But in terms of what the featuring board is looking for,
yeah.
Low res anything is a death sentence.
Yeah, it is definitely a little bit of a it's definitely an issue. So
now again, this is not something that's going to look terrible on a phone. It's a great app. I mean, we're not saying that it's bad. It's just that we know that when we nominate for something for featuring. They will test it on a tablet, and if it doesn't look crisp and clear, it will get kicked out.
Exactly. So it definitely, I think that having a higher res art set is going to look really great on phones that are like XHDPI. Things like Galaxy Nexus are really going to take advantage of them, and it really, really helps the tablet story as well. And you can actually use multi-APK. You can actually have an APK that has higher res art as well as an APK that has lower res art, and that way you don't have to make the download size huge for everyone, but you can actually just put up two different ones in parallel, one's for larger screens and one for smaller screens, even if you want to do that. And again, if you do larger screens and smaller screens, you don't get to take advantage of it on your Galaxy Nexus, but you know what, it probably looks okay on Galaxy Nexus. That's not the end of the world.
Now, I don't want to spend the entire day talking about the title screen here, but let's just also point out that on the title screen, there are a set of share buttons. So we love share buttons. We think that sharing is great, but can we just point out that if you use the standard sharing action in the standard Android share button, then you don't have to anticipate whether your user is a Facebook user or a Twitter user or a Flickr user or
they're different button actions, but also I think the real thing about this screen is that I actually looked at the screen and I wasn't sure what was clickable and what was not. Like all those buttons at the bottom, as far as I'm concerned, they could be badges. Like, we support YouTube, and we support OpenFaint, and we support Twitter and Facebook. Like, I didn't even realize they were actually.
Well, I didn't think about that, but you're kind of right. Yeah, this is the NASCAR logos.
They don't really pop, and so that I like the fact that they are fitting the art style, but also I suspect that that having them pop just a little bit more might actually help, and also making it so that they actually did something when you press them, and these are also all activating on down click. On Android in general, we want to see a full click action before we do any kind of action based upon a click.
All right.
And that's so you can actually, if I accidentally click in between, I can move my hand over to the one that I click and then release, that kind of thing.
Good point.
So usually it's usually on down and then up. So you'd expect that I could go like here. And that would do nothing, and then I could click here and then get off of it, and then I would be given the option. So those are just things to think about when you're designing any kind of Android UI.
All right, so some things to think about there. Dan, why don't you show us how this game is played?
Sure. So this game is in the bug squashing genre, which I didn't even realize was a genre, but it actually is.
I noticed you have 3-starred the first 5 levels.
Yes. And what I really like about this game is it's really got a great sense of whimsy and fun. These you're actually squashing not real bugs but mutant bugs, and the mutant bugs all
That's
have
good because real bugs have feelings.
Exactly, and while these mutant bugs are, out to get you, they're created in a laboratory. The game has a very, very nice feel. Now, one thing it does not have support for is multi-touch. You figure that out very quickly because if you touch the screen more than once, you'll see that we don't actually squash multiple bugs.
And I think that really is our top ask for a feature on here. Is I think multi-touch would be a really fun addition to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's I understand multi-touch makes it unfair for people who don't have it, but I think that
that's the whole point.
It probably
right? Why did I buy a device with multi-touch?
Exactly,
so that I could stick it to my non-multi-touch.
That's right. But I think what I would do. Wow, this is getting really hard. What I think I would do is if the user does really press down 2 touches at once, it might make sense to actually say, hey dude, only 1 finger at a time, or something like that, especially the first time they do it, to make it really, really clear that you only have 1 finger. Now you also have weapons. So you see that I can actually buy different weapons. I can actually go and get a swatter. So I'm going to do that, add that to my collection here, and then I'm going to start the game. So this should help because there was 5 billion flies there. The other thing I like about this in terms of what it brings to the genre is that actually the farther down you smash the bugs, the better. Of course, this fly swatter's crap. It doesn't help me at all.
You're trying to use a fly swatter against ladybugs. Nobody does that. They're armored. They have a shell.
That's totally true.
What's the fly swatter on the fly?
What does the salt do? I'm totally curious.
Well, I assume there's snails in the game. Is that
there were snails in the game.
There you go.
That is exactly what it does. I'm sure that I have to use it on the snails to keep them from exploding. Because otherwise, if you just tap the snails, they explode. But maybe if I use salt on them,
they'll shrivel up.
They'll shrivel up and
instead
they won't
of
explode. That is
a good point.
I didn't. These are mutant snails.
But don't bring a swatter to a ladybug fight.
Yeah.
Now there's your swatter.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, go back. It's really, really hard. Let's make that really clear. Especially, the top of that.
You know what's going to happen is Rich Heinman is going to beat this game next week.
We should actually send this game to Rich and say,
we should
Rich,
surrender to Rich.
Yeah, Rich beat Gum and Clive, which is one of the hardest games we've reviewed in.
Right.
And
yeah.
So
the review board's opinion of Gunman and Clive was, wow, this game is awesome, but it needs to be easier.
Yeah,
and of course the developer came back and said, screw you guys, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And then one of our developer advocates, Rich Hinman, actually went and beat the game just to show us up. So apparently we were wrong, or we meaning the board. And
it makes me sad because not only is he an awesome gamer, but he lives in London. It's like he's everything I've ever wanted.
It's true, actually, and he speaks with a fantastic accent as well.
Do not start.
Yeah,
I warn you.
Of course.
Oh,
sorry. It goes with the cat.
Oh God.
So in any case. In all seriousness, though, we really like the game. I think it's really innovative. I think it brings a lot to the genre.
No, it does have the buttons of shame.
It does have the buttons of shame, and it'll restart if you do zoom to fit screen, which is better than crashing.
Right.
It's basically its activities getting restarted. It's handling the activity getting restarted. That's great. And actually, the funny thing is, when you zoom to fit screen, you can't actually tell the difference. It looks a little bit more blurry.
Right. Because they've got. Their
artwork is so low res to begin with that when you stretch it, when you zoom to fill screen, it actually it's the hairest tiniest bit blurry, which shows that these graphics are not even they're not even HDPI, they're MDPI graphics. They're like these are graphics that were designed for phones like the G1.
Well, and that can be tough too because this is an MDPI device. It's just also an extra large screen.
That's also true. So if this game actually has, and I have no idea how it was programmed because I haven't looked into it, but if this game actually has HDPI resources, it's possible that it's not making use of them. So if it was programmed with the framework, they're actually going to have to put in some code to say, hey, what we really meant was not HDPI. What we really meant is large screen.
Right.
And that's and that can be as simple as putting them in the wrong folders. And I haven't actually taken a look to see what they did, but that's possible. It is possible that there actually are higher res resources that we're not seeing.
Yep.
So, but in any case, it's fairly easy to make those changes.
Yep. So I think our verdict on Xbugs is this is a good entry into the apparently crowded bug smashing genre.
And I would say it's crowded, but there's definitely a genre.
There's definitely some things that we would really like to see fixed and changed, so that it looks great on all Android devices. Probably not something that's too difficult to do. Possibly you're going to need to redo some of your resources. But other than that, just a really great game. So congratulations,
Yeah.
Mr. Xbug, last name Xbug.
Mr. Xbug.
Rock. And that's about all the time we have, actually. We've got to get to our next meeting
Mm-hmm.
because we are important people with
What?
important things to do.
Well, at least one of us is. That would be you. That's because
Anyway.
you've got the leather jacket and I've got the cow hat. So another happy Friday, and thanks for joining us here on the Friday Review.
So we will see you next Friday at 1 o'clock p.m.
For
Pacific
apps.
Stand for Pacific time for the apps review with Ray Meyer and Fred Chung. This has been the Games Review with Dan Galpin and Ian New Lewis, and we will see you next week. Thank
yeah,
you.
make sure to get on Moderator. Vote for your own apps, vote for your favorite apps and games, and let's give us a great pipeline of stuff to look at for next week. Because this was actually really fun.
I feel like you were running dry.
No, it was a really fun week. It was a really fun
Yeah.
week. I was a little worried when I first saw the list, but actually, it turns out there was lots of really fun stuff to say about every single one of them, and they were all fun to play. So
Yeah. All right.
cheers.
Cheers.